Am I the asshole for eating a normal slice of the cake my aunt made for my birthday? Act 1. The inheritance of a kitchen. Cooking was never just cooking in my family. For as long as I can remember, the kitchen was where memories lived, where stories were told, where love was measured not in words, but in portions. My paternal grandfather was the heart of that kitchen. He never wrote his recipes down. He taught by watching, by correcting your hand when you stir too fast, by raising an eyebrow when you tasted something too early. When I was a kid, I'd stand on a stool next to him, barely tall enough to see into the pan, and he'd let me up anyway. Food, he used to say, is how you take care of people when words aren't enough. When he passed, I was the one he had taught the most. Not because I was special, not because anyone else was excluded, just because I showed up. One of the recipes he taught me, the one everyone associates with him, was his bananas foster. It's the dish people ask for at every gathering, birthdays, holidays, random Sundays. Ironically, bananas aren't even my favorite flavor. I'll taste it to make sure it's right. I'll have a small portion to people like, but I don't crave it the way everyone else does. Still, I make it. Because people love it. Because it reminds them of him. Because sometimes cooking isn't about you. Act 2. A birthday surrounded by love. Last week was my birthday. I turned 25. Friends showed up. Family showed up. The house was loud in that warm, messy way that only happens when generations overlap. My aunt was there too. She's my dad's older sister by a couple of years, and we've always been cordial. Not close, not distant, just polite. At some point during the party, she came up to me holding a cake box. She smiled. Happy birthday, she said, handing it to me. I opened it. Inside was a banana foster's cake. I paused for just a second. Not because I didn't appreciate it, but because I wasn't expecting that flavor on my birthday. Still, I smiled. Thank you, I said. That was really thoughtful. I placed the cake on the dessert table with the others. Later, when it was time for dessert, I grabbed a slice. Not huge, not tiny, just normal. Maybe a little smaller than what most people grabbed. I ate it, and honestly, it was delicious. When I saw my aunt later, I told her that. Your cake was really good, I said. People loved it. She smiled. At least I thought she did. Act 3, the phone call had changed the tone. The next day, my phone rang. It was my aunt. Her voice was calm at first, almost casual. Hey, she said. Did you enjoy the cake I made? Yes, I replied. It was delicious. I told you that yesterday. There was a pause. Then she asked, so, why did you take such a small slice? I hesitated. I stood there, phone in hand, weighing my options. I could lie, say I wasn't that hungry, say I'd already eaten something else. But lies have a way of becoming future problems. So I told the truth. Bananas aren't really my favorite flavor, I said carefully, but since you made it for me, I still add some. The silence on the end stretched. Then her tone changed. I made that cake for your birthday, she said. You should have eaten most of it. I blinked. I didn't think it was rude, she continued, cutting me off. You put it on the dessert table like it was for everyone else. It's like you regifted my cake. I felt my chest tighten. That wasn't my intention, I said. I just didn't think it made sense for me to eat most of the cake with a flavor I don't really enjoy. I thought sharing it meant it didn't go to waste. I tried to keep my voice calm. People clearly liked it. There wasn't any left. That didn't help. As for the wound beneath the words. She inhaled sharply. And if you don't like the bananas, she snapped, why do you keep making Dad's bananas foster? There it was. Something deeper. I make it because it was Grandpa's recipe, I said. And because everyone in the family loves it, it reminds people of him. She scoffed. That's not an excuse to be disrespectful and ungrateful. Before I could respond, she hung up. The line went dead. I stood there, phone still pressed to my ear, trying to understand how a slice of a cake had turned into this. Act 5. The family response. Over the next few days, the story spread. My parents heard, my siblings heard, my cousins heard, including our kids. And almost unanimously, the response was the same. She overreacted. She's reading too much into it. You did nothing wrong. That helped, but it didn't fully settle the knot in my stomach. Because when someone accuses you of being ungrateful, especially family, it lingers. At 6, the truth comes out. Then today my cousin called me, quietly, almost like they didn't want the words overheard. There's more to it, they said. Apparently, my aunt had been venting, and the reason weren't really about cake. First, she was upset she didn't get more praise for the dessert. Apparently, she hadn't actually made it herself. Second, she had been holding resentment for years that Grandpa had passed his recipes to me, not her. She never asked for them, never showed interest in cooking while he was alive, but the resentment stayed anyway. Third, she believes I'm keeping the recipes to myself. Which isn't true. I've always been willing to share. No one ever asked. At 7, reflection. So now I'm sitting with all of this. The cake, the core, the resentment disguised as offense. I didn't mean to hurt her, But I also don't think I deserve to be attacked for eating a normal slice of my own birthday cake. I didn't reject her gift. I didn't insult her effort. I shared it, because sharing is what grandfather taught me food was for. Act 8. The silence that came before the cake. The more I thought about the phone call, the more I realized something. This wasn't the first time my aunt had reacted strongly to something small. Growing up, there was always a kind of distance between her and my grandfather. Not hostility, not open conflict, just silence. At family gatherings, Grandpa would be in the kitchen, cooking, laughing, explaining recipes to anyone who lingered enough. My aunt rarely did. She'd pass through, maybe grab a drink, maybe comment on the smell, but she never stayed. Never asked questions, never watched closely, never pulled up a chair. Sometimes Grandpa would try. Come here, he'd say. Taste this, tell me what you think. She'd smile politely. Oh, I don't cook like you do, she'd say. That's more your thing. And Grandpa would nod. He never pushed. He believed people showed love in different ways, and that forcing interest only spoiled it. But I remembered noticing something else. When my dad or I cooked with him, he'd soften, his voice would lower, he'd tell stories. When my aunt was around, he stayed polite, but guarded. Like he was careful not to ask for more than she wanted to give. Act 9. Recipes as a language. The first time Grandpa taught me bananas foster properly, I was in my late teens. He didn't announce it, didn't make a big deal. He just handed me the pan. Your turn, he said. I hesitated. I don't think I've watched enough times. He smiled. You've been watching your whole life. That's how it was, always with him. Teaching wasn't just a ceremony, it was trust. Over time, he showed me more. How long to let the sugar darken when the butter was almost too hot to. How to listen for the sound to change before adding the rum. My aunt was never there for those moments. Not because she was excluded, but because she never came into the kitchen long enough to notice they were happening. Act 10. After Grandpa passed. When Grandpa died, the family grieved in different ways. Some cried, some stayed busy, some withdrew. I stayed in the kitchen. I cooked his recipes when words failed. At gatherings, people would say things like, this tastes just like his. I miss him so much. Thank you for keeping this alive. I never thought of it as inheritance. It felt more like continuation. My aunt, on the other hand, became quieter. She'd say attend events, but I noticed something new. When people praised the food, she stiffened. Not angry, just tense. At the time, I thought it was grief. Now, I'm not so sure. Act 11. The cake revisited. Knowing all this, the cake made more sense. It wasn't just a dessert. It was her stepping into a space she felt excluded from, even if that exclusion was imagined. A balanced foster cake wasn't just a gift. It was a statement. I can do this too. I belong here too. Notice me. So when I didn't center myself around it, when I shared it instead of claiming it, when the attention moved on naturally, it probably felt like rejection. Not of the cake, but of her. Act 12. The truth beneath the anger. Learning that she hadn't even made the cake herself only complicated things further. It explained the need for praise, the sensitivity, the sharp reaction, and the resentment about the recipes. That felt like grief that had nowhere to go. She lost her father, and somewhere along the way she decided the recipes were proof of love she didn't receive, even though love had been offered, just not in the way she expected. I don't even hate my aunt. I don't even think she's a bad person. I think she's someone carrying old disappointment. And when the moment came, they spit out over a slice of cake. I wish the conversation had gone differently. I wish she hadn't hung up. But I know this. I didn't eat a small slice to hurt her. I didn't share the cake to diminish her effort. I didn't learn those recipes to exclude anyone. I learned them because someone once stood beside me and said, food is how you take care of people. So I did exactly that. And now I'm left asking, was I really ungrateful? Or was I just standing in the middle of a story that started long before my birthday? Am I the asshole?